Welcome everybody. You're watching the Acquisition Council, the monthly show that takes a deep dive into best practices and technologies to help your dealership evolve its street purchase strategies. Today we'll be talking about street purchases, the follow-up with Tom and Mark from the Vehicle Acquisition Network, two of the most versed and knowledgeable subject matter experts on private vehicle acquisition and auto remarketing. Today's topic will definitely be useful for our used car managers out there, so let's jump right in. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Hi, David.
Hi, buddy. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How
Good.
are you?
You know, listen, I say it every time, and I don't think I can ever really stop saying it, is I really enjoy hanging with you guys and learning and talking about, and I learn so much about this industry. Every time I find myself at one of my clients, I feel a little more knowledgeable because of you two. So thank you very much. So today's episode is street purchases, the follow-up. Okay, so the follow-up process on street purchases. The first question I have is, why is it important to have a powerhouse follow-up process in place to continue the dialogue with sellers as they progress through this journey?
Well, I'd like to start off by saying that what we find new dealers enrolling in the program and what we've seen over years of research is that less than 25% of private sellers will actually sell their vehicle on first contact. So any dealership that's not doing follow-up with their private sellers is probably missing about 75% of the opportunities to purchase vehicles. We've also seen that once we do make contact with a private seller, it takes approximately 24 days for that private seller to make a decision to sell their vehicle to the dealership. And additionally, there's often a delta of more than $4,000 between what that private seller originally listed their vehicle for and what they eventually accepted from the dealership. So follow-up is key to success.
Yes.
So as Mark said, if there's a $4,000 gap between what the seller posted and what they actually transact to the dealer, that doesn't come at first pass. So there's some time that's going to be added there. And when a seller posts a car, we find that the connotation of those initial messages may be a little bit less than friendly. So if you spend most of your time interacting with very fresh sellers that may be not ready for a dealer yet, it can be tough. So by doing follow-up and allowing the customer, the seller in this case, to come down to reality or to realize that the car is not worth retail price, what a dealership is asking, it makes it a lot easier when you're engaging with sellers, closer to the bottom part of the funnel rather than sticking only at the top.
Sure, makes sense. Next question. What other tools and tactics do you recommend dealers use during the follow-up process?
I can take part of that. At least we at Van really believe in seller advocacy. So rather than trying to pressure a seller into an appointment without having a range or a value, we'll often encourage our champions in stores with Van to build a relationship with that private seller and offer assistance. Sometimes it's as simple as a dealership champion helping somebody out with their description in their vehicle or making some recommendations on pictures. So even though they haven't purchased the vehicle on that first contact, they've made a friend and they've offered some valuable advice. So when they do make that first follow-up with that private seller, they're a lot more welcomed than as if they were just trying to take something from someone.
Dave, if a seller, if a dealer said, hey, I'll call you back in a week or two, like, are you actually anticipating them to call you back in a week or two?
No.
And how would you feel if they actually did?
Surprised.
It'd probably be a good surprise.
It'd be a great surprise.
That there was actually follow through with the commitment. Yeah. So when you make a statement or a claim, hey, I'll call you in a week, and then you actually follow through with what you said, it has a big impact on the consumers, the sellers in this case. So by dropping the seed of what comes next and actually fulfilling what you said would happen, it provides a lot of credibility for the dealership.
Yeah.
So, but in that note is by adding value. So Mark said that by being a seller advocate, you're adding value to that consumer. So this could be the same thing. Hey, Mr. Seller, I will call you back in a week or two just to check in to see how it's going. When you follow through and you're providing value with perhaps you're providing a Carfax for the consumer, or you're letting them know that the photos could be optimized better.
Sure.
That goes a long way.
Yeah, sure does. Sure does. Well, our last question. What is the minimum amount of time a dealer should be contacting the seller after the initial contact?
That's a great question. I think in previous episodes, we've talked a little bit about some of our best operators and really brand ambassadors, specifically Gary Wade in Minnesota and David Long in California. And there is a lot of discussion about that, as spirited discussion as that may be. Some will say 4 minimum contacts after your initial. Other operators like David Long, for example, who we talked about with Champion, will say 7 points or further for follow-up contacts. So it's what works best for your specific buy center and where you're having the most success. But we would recommend a minimum of 4. And of course, we would say, you may not want to check in with somebody every day because you may wear out your welcome.
Yeah.
You also have the saying of buy or die. So in this case, sell or die. So until the seller tells you to stop contacting them. But again, if you're adding value to the process and things are spread out where it's not a daily interaction, I think certainly 7 or more is appropriate. If that car's still online and the seller's telling you or not telling you to stop contacting them, and you're adding value of some form, keep going.
Well, what would be the first contact after that initial?
ASAP.
ASAP.
Yeah. So as soon as you can engage with that seller, so again, it shows that there's an earnest interest to help that seller if you're proactive. If you wait an hour, 2 hours a day, there's not a lot of initiation there, and not a lot of initiative. So I'd say the more that you can demonstrate that you're eager to serve and eager to support, it shows a good sign for the dealership.
Really smart. Thanks. Great seeing you guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Great show. Thank you so much. Hey, once again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Acquisition Council. Again, thanks to Tom and Mark for their knowledge. If you didn't get some of the information that you hoped for, these guys are waiting for your call. Call them anytime. They're here to answer your questions. And this is a really interesting topic, and I know we can talk about it all day long, but time's valuable, and we got to go. Thank you so much from everybody at the Vehicle Acquisition Network. We'll see you next time.